Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Life as a Chad YouTube channel. I thank all of you for being here, especially if you're new. And I also really want to thank the many subs in the short existence of this YouTube channel. I am supremely grateful. You guys are the best. And for me specifically, I am someone who values the customer big time. And so I really do appreciate the love, the support, and all of that good shit. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. We are really making progress here. Now, the topic of this video, which I will get to momentarily, is on the heels of the Will Smith incident, which I did a video on. And I think I pretty much nailed it in my analysis of what happened there. And the topic for this video doesn't even necessarily specifically have to do with the bitch slap from Will Smith to Chris Rock, but it did spark an idea in my mind and a thought and something that ultimately I did want to make some content about. And that topic is that the West does not value men. I almost titled it "The West Hates Men," but that is somewhat hard to prove. And it is much easier, and I'm somewhat lazy, it is much easier to prove that the West does not value men. Now, before we get into any of that, I want to ask you to hit that subscribe button, not smash it, click it, because, well, subscribing makes you feel good. At the very least, like, comment. I try and get to all the comments, even though I am gainfully employed. I try my best because, as I said, I value the customer, and it just is what it is. So please consider hitting that subscribe button and supporting your boy, the Chad, on his YouTube channel quest. Now, this video, this topic in general, a major motivation for me is that I wish that I had something similar to this when I was growing up. Well, I'm still growing up. But when I was graduating from high school and more specifically in college. And the purpose of this video is to get the truth out there and to basically suggest or state as intensely as possible that you must accept the truth and move on. I'm a big believer, which is probably why I have the political beliefs I have and have the view towards life that I have. I'm a big believer in accepting the truth, learning as much truth as possible, taking it in and accepting it and moving on. Yes, some people say ignorance is bliss. And I will say that there is some truth even to that, specifically political things. You're at work and somebody's talking about this political thing and you're like, fuck, dude, I can't believe you believe that bullshit. I can't believe it. That is a situation where you you believe in a certain regard that ignorance is indeed bliss. But I digress. But as I said, the main motivation is to get the truth out there and for the people who watch this to accept it and move on. I wish that I had seen something like this. And it is a tough pill to swallow. It really is. And I have so many thoughts running through my mind right now with where to take this, but it is a very tough pill to swallow, especially once you become an adult, because along with this topic, once you become an adult, especially if you are interested in hearing the truth, you start to be exposed to all of the hypocrisy that goes on in this country. And one of those things is the topic of men. We're going to read this article, and I'm going to tell you exactly what I mean by that. But if there's a certain sector of the population who would watch this video and say, "What? You're crazy, Chad. You are crazy. Men are revered in this country. Men have a leg up. They just have it the best. They really, really do. You are insane." And then there's the other side of the spectrum that says, "Oh, dude, you're totally right. And we should just move forward and do nothing about it. We, just take it all in, and it is what it is. The world's going to end someday, right? Anyway, so it doesn't even matter." And I am somewhere in the middle. Now, if I've shared my story a little bit before, and I will state it again. I was a 3-sport varsity athlete in high school. Now, I want to preface this with the fact that high school is an artificial environment. It is not accurate at all. But in high school, for me, I didn't start noticing that the West did not value men until about college. When I was in high school, I would say women, or the young ladies, still liked guys and still revered the guys. It wasn't until college when all of the brainwashing, now I had to go through it in order to be a Division I athlete, but it wasn't until all of that went on that I started to notice this trend of male bashing, from the Sheeness. Now, this, I don't want to provide a bunch of evidence and shit like that, because ultimately evidence gets contorted and misconstrued in every which way it can. The only evidence that I would put forth is the male to female ratio in college, how many more women are going to college, which would suggest that women are getting further ahead at a younger age. In other words, men are getting left behind because not as many men are going to college. And to be honest, most people don't give a fuck, which would go back to the previous thing I said, which is the West doesn't value men. The second data point, I guess, and I don't even have the stats necessarily right in front of me, but I think that this is a fairly agreed upon thing, which is the male suicide rate. And it's even more alarming when you take into consideration that men on average are actually happier than women, especially once men reach the age of about 40 years old. Women are as unhappy as they've ever been in the recorded era, yet men still commit suicide at a much higher rate than women. And of course, again, there's just so many things to unpack here. You have the transformation of what it means to be masculine. Now, my last data point here that I want to point out is that it sucks so fucking bad to be a man right now in the West that guys are literally pretending to be women, some going as far as cutting off their whatever. Take that in for a second, okay? That whole thing, by the way, it's much more men doing that, or, men trying to be women than women trying to be men. And it's because right now, these men feel zero support. They look at women and they see such a valued commodity that they cannot stand for even one moment longer to be a man, and they are ultimately okay with mutilating themselves in order to get the return that is being a woman. Now, as I said, there's so many different angles to approach this. Okay. The next angle, I'm done with the data points. Those are the three main arguments that I would use. And specifically, if you have to argue with someone about how shitty it is to be a man in today's society with somebody else, I would use those three things. Number one, the suicide rate among men, the college rate of men to women, meaning that women are going to college at a far higher pace than men are, when that was most certainly not always the case. It's only recently a new thing, a new phenomenon. And three, I would point out that men, more so than women, are committing bodily harm in order to become a woman, because it seems so fucking great to be a woman and to get everything, all the perks and the benefits that women get. Now, the next angle. I don't know if you've watched Rollo Tomassi, but he and the Manosphere have commonly coined the phrase that women are and men must become, which means that women are born and they just are. They don't have to earn a damn thing. In other words, a woman could be 17 or 18 years old and not accomplished a fucking thing, not earned a fucking thing, and can get access into candy stores, the theoretical candy stores. They can get access to clubs and people that the average man in the span of his life will never have access to. And that is just a fucking fact. That is like the number one thing that I am very, very sure of. And the reason being is very simple, that the things that men value in women, primarily looks and availability, are the very thing that give women access to certain things without having accomplished a fucking thing. All they have to be is just be. They just have to be their natural, beautiful self, and they will get the access to things that men will not. Men, on the other hand, in order to get that same access, must become something in order to get said access. They have to accomplish certain things in order to get said access to whatever people, places, and things. Again, I am not making this video to provide a expository of evidence that you can take in and go, I wonder if Life as a Chad is truthful, is actually accurate about the West not valuing men. That's not what I'm not doing. That's not what we're doing here. The main reason for this video is to tell you how it is and what to do about it. Okay. Multiple videos that I have made now have been advice specifically to young men and how they should view, how they should approach life. And I commonly state that as a man, the best thing that you can do for yourself is is to be indifferent, not super positive or super negative towards the opposite sex, but instead to have a purpose and to push forward towards your own accomplishments and dreams, and everything else will come as a result of that. Now, going back to the beginning of the story, and the reason why I gave a little bit of my personal story, again, very, very big athlete, is because I wanted to explain or provide the reasoning towards why this is important to me. The wall that I hit of realization of this fact was so brutal that I really just want other guys out there not to make the same mistake. I would rather you watch this video and to maybe do your own research a little bit, but just to think about it logically, use the logic that God gave you to determine if this is true, and then to accept it and move forward accordingly. The way to move forward after taking in the information regarding the West not valuing men is to take it on the chin, accept it, and move forward. Just as it is a fact that you need water to survive, this is another fact that you need to take in order to keep moving forward. Not in a negative way, and not even in a optimistic or positive way. The best way to move forward, and it took me a little while to realize this myself, because it is very easy to get into the manosphere stuff and to become a little bit overly intellectual and a little bit too in your head about intersexual dynamics, how men are being treated, yada, 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 all of that stuff. It can weigh you down instead of just living your life. And ultimately, as I said, it took me a little while to realize it instead of just taking it on the chin and moving forward accordingly. Because for me, I'm sitting back and, I have all these flashbacks to the crazy and wonderful time that was high school. And I keep asking myself, why is it like this in the real world? This fucking sucks. This is yet another letdown towards being an adult. And really what I was doing was just fighting with the truth. I was fighting with the truth. And I really wish that I would have just taken this information and just, as I said, been indifferent. Now, ultimately, nothing negative came out of it one way or the other, and I am much better for it now. To where we are at this moment. And the bottom line is that you need to take this and just be indifferent. Don't be mad at women because this is a fact of life. Don't be mad at them because they get some extra head start that you don't get. Don't be a white knight and prop them up even more than what they already are given. Don't do either of those things. Be indifferent. Instead, have a purpose for yourself and move fucking forward. Build up your life, build up your social circle around you, build up your empire. Be a king. Be a fucking king. I don't know how else to say it besides that, because it is very easy to take the pressures of life and put it into a relationship that you think is 50-50 based off of all the shit that you have been told in your life, which is total gobbledygook. It is absolutely, completely gobbledygook. The best thing that you could do for yourself is to be indifferent and build up your empire around you based around your purpose. Now, I wanted to read this a little bit just to show you an example of everything that I'm talking about. This is an article from a website called Fatherly. I don't know what the fuck this thing is, but I think this is the perfect personification of everything that I am talking about and how the academic world and pretty much, I would say, a majority of America and the West view men and intersexual dynamics. Here we go. Whereas feminine ideals are fairly consistent over the course of Western history, meaning women have always been women. They have always been very, very feminine, which, by the way, in my opinion, is total bullshit. Women have never been less feminine than they are right now. That's part of the overall issue, is that, or at the very least, a big sticking point I would have with feminism is that it has taught women to not be feminine, not be the true sense of the word feminine. Masculine ideals are not. Anthropologists claim that 3 Ps, which Rollo Tomasi and a bunch of the manosphere guys talk about this all the time: providing, protecting, and procreating. In other words, that is what it means to be masculine. Define modern American manhood. In other words, the 3 Ps is a very summarized version of how women view men and what they deem to be important when they look at men. Define modern American manhood, but that's a localized phenomenon. The only consistent truth about masculinity has been this: men have always feared having it taken away. This is why serious gender researchers are increasingly dismissive of the idea of toxic masculinity. Sounds somewhat good, I guess, for a second, which suggests that manhood itself is some form of congenital defect. Oh, fuck. What seems to be more plausible is that toxic behaviors are a reaction to perceived threats to the masculinity of a subset of men with poor self-esteem. In other words, it's the men who know the truth of intersexual dynamics and know the truth of what it means to be masculine and what it means to be feminine and how they react. And it's, as I said before, it's why you need to react in an indifferent way rather than a negative way, getting all butthurt about it. That's what they're saying, is that there's a handful of men who learn about this shit and become all butthurt about it. So to the masculinity of a subset of men with poor self-esteem. Put a different way, what's toxic isn't masculinity. No. There's nothing ultimately wrong with masculine behavior, but the creeping suspicion that it can be taken away and the juvenile actions that this suspicion triggers. Okay. The idea that manhood is something that has to be earned is fairly widespread. Yeah, it's no longer that way in the West, by the way. Manhood is not earned in the fucking West. Matter of fact, young boys are not taught how to be men in this current culture, which is why we are so fucked, because they don't know what it means to be masculine because they don't see it. I myself was very lucky because I saw it with my pops. My pops was is a very strong masculine guy. But when I look around, I see most guys don't have that. So I couldn't disagree with this more. The idea of manhood being earned or being taught is so far gone that it's ludicrous that they even say this. It used to be that way, which is the modern framework in which they teach this bullshit, which is that how it used to be is still 100% how it is, which is total and utter bullshit. How it used to be is not. We live in a total 360 of a world right in this point in time right now. Social psychologist Joseph Vandaleo, who, along with his colleague Jennifer Bossum at the University of South Florida, proposed an alternative to toxic masculinity in 2008. Precarious manhood theory. Sounds fucking boring. Bossum and Vandaleo concluded that many men view masculinity as a sort of currency that can be earned and stolen rather than as a fixed trait. See, again, that to me sounds like a feminine trait, not a masculine trait. I don't know very many men who view their inherent masculinity as a commodity that is worth some monetary value. I just don't see it that way. And stolen rather than a fixed trait. In other words, manhood is not something that just is. It's something that is because there is value to it. There's currency to it. They found most young boys working hard to earn manhood and a smaller population of men preoccupied with protecting this valuable social status. These men, the ones who worried about their masculine status being taken away, demonstrated a tendency to lash out if not externally validated. In other words, when men's masculinity, or the young boys, I guess, in this example, when their masculinity was threatened to be taken away, they reacted in a certain kind of way, which who wouldn't? If somebody is treading on your territory, wouldn't you push back a little bit? I mean, it's fucking absurd to think that if someone is trying to take away the very essence of who you are, that you wouldn't push back in a certain way. That's fucking insane. By contrast, girls tended to view the transition to womanhood as a physical rather than social trait. Questioning their femininity was unlikely to trigger much more than a laugh. Now, that's somewhat true. I mean, in my experience, bringing up femininity to women doesn't really bug them as much as it does when you question a guy's manhood. So I don't necessarily disagree with that last part. But the middle part of the young men pushing back when their masculinity is threatened, it's like, of course, duh. Why, who wouldn't do that? I mean, men are fucking predators. We are hunters. We protect. For some of these women in these intellectual circles, and this used to piss me off in college, they have no clue how the male mind works and the sheer veracity that it can get to. They have no clue. They just don't. Bossum and Vandaleo posited that men are quite a bit more anxious about gender than women, which is true. Or I can see how that would be somewhat true. Women, this is why women who are lesbians commonly go back to men, because their gender is very fluid. In other words, their sexuality is malleable, whereas men's sexuality is not malleable at all. Again, that's why you see lesbians commonly going back to men, because their sexuality is malleable. The answer seems to be more cultural than biological. In almost every culture, boys begin to police each other as they approach manhood. So do chicks, deeming only specific behaviors acceptable and demanding, in many cases, that aspirants to masculinity perform feats of social and physical strength. The modern hazing rituals found in college fraternities are essentially an extension of this. Basically, being a man is ultimately more valued in society. Wrong again. Wrong again. It is not. It's more valued on a very unconscious level. It is more valued on, like I said, the unconscious level and the actual reality of how shit gets done. But on the very conscious level of how people talk and the stuff that comes out of their mouth and what even the bullshit that they wash around their head, no, men are not more valued on average than women are. In fact, I would go as far to say that men are undervalued and underappreciated. There is virtually zero protection for men in the modern era. And in every which way, men are faced with so many people and things pushing them not to be men, which is why we see men doing the genital mutilation type stuff, because there's so much pressure and force for them not to be masculine that they will literally do harm to their own body. And being a woman is more devalued. Maxine Craig, a sociologist at the University of California, Davis, explains, because men are more valued in society, they have to watch their step in order to not lose that position. This is the last paragraph I'm going to read here. Gender is performative in general, and women certainly experience social pressures and have hierarchies. That said, because there's less social status attached to the feminine women, women may enjoy more freedom to be fluid than men. Feminists lampooned by their enemies for being too masculine. Lady Gaga has, for instance, been accused of hiding a secret penis, tend to shrug off the jokes, while the men who make them struggle to grant the premise that gender roles are oppressive. Okay. Understanding that they have more to lose, men flee the conversion to prepare to fight. Ultimately, what this article is saying, and the reason why I showed this, is to show you the very modern way of how a majority of people how the clowns view intersexual dynamics and how they view men and women, is that we are interchangeable. Everything that they built up to into that final sentence, understanding that, while the men who make them struggle to grant the premise that gender roles are oppressive. It all built up to the fact of them trying to say that it is oppressive to put feminine values on women, and it is oppressive to put masculine roles on men in order to get rid of them altogether, in order to promote the idea that women, men, it makes no fucking difference. They're the exact same. That is ultimately the whole antithesis of being a feminist and the modern way of how people view intersexual dynamics and men and women. And it sucks. And listen, the main reason I made this video, as I said, is as a man to tell you that no one is going to feel sorry for you. No one is going to protect you. No one is going to save you. In fact, not only are none of those things going to happen, you will be actively fought against your entire life. And you must accept that as soon as possible, because that is the only way that you will be able to feel confident and comfortable in your own skin and to move forward in the best possible manner that you can as a man in the West. That's the only way, because the more you push back on it, the more you try and understand the hypocrisy, the bullshit And the more you get upset by how flaccidly incorrect it is, the more the more difficult it will be for you to move forward. Again, no one in the West will protect you, save you, be on your side. It's just not going to happen. And again, you will actively be pushed against. You will actively be, people will actively try and convince you to not be a man, to not be masculine. And the best ammo against that is to accept that that is how it's going to be, and to not be surprised by it at all and move forward. Accept it, be indifferent, don't get butthurt about it, don't get super positive about it and become some white knight. Be indifferent and move forward. The Meditations book by Marcus Aurelius, there is a verse that I just read from that, which is, and I don't remember it word for word, but would you, if in society, it is impossible for there not to be stupid people, would you if it's impossible for that not to be the case, would you ultimately be upset that you ran into a stupid person? No, because it just is. It's going to happen. It is bound to happen. And the more you accept it and look at it head on and say, you know what? It's impossible that there aren't any stupid people, and I was bound to run into one of them sooner or later, the better prepared you are to react against coming up or walking up to a stupid person or a feminist. If you accept that as a man, people are against you, and that the West actively dismisses the very nature of your being, and that just is in this society, then you won't be surprised ultimately when you see it, and you will be better prepared to move forward and get through it. So take it on the chin, take it as gospel. Don't take it negatively. Don't take it positively. Be indifferent. Take it as much of a fact as it is that you need to drink fucking water and keep moving forward to your purpose. Have a purpose and move forward. The West is against you. They don't value you as a man. They don't value your masculinity. But the sooner you accept that, the better off you will be. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. This was a fucking awesome video. Fun topic to discuss. It did kind of go like this a little bit. You know, I don't type down everything I want to say, so I kind of am just going off the cusp here, but I think it all came out fairly well in the end. Let me know what you think. Does the West value men in society these days? How do you think that men should go up against this? What do you think is the best way to react to all of this? And be sure to hit that subscribe button, because, well, subscribing makes you feel good. At the very least, like, comment, share. Thank you so much for watching the Life as a Chad YouTube channel. We're going to continue to grow together, and I hope to see you guys next time. DBAP, don't be a fucking pussy willow. And facts are feelings, your feelings don't matter. See you guys next time. Bye.